Hey everybody, it's me, Mrs. Boots, and this is English Language Arts 9B. Today we're going to talk about revision and editing. Okay, so you've spent all your precious time researching, taking notes, making an outline because your teacher said you had to have one, and finally you have some semblance of an essay. Surely you must be close to the end by now. Okay, so yes, you're close to being done, but there's still a little bit more work to do here. Look, it's all part of the writing process. You don't just spew some words onto a paper and then wash your hands of it. Or at least you shouldn't. Not if you really want your reader to understand and get something out of your writing. It's a process that takes practice. And while the research and content is really super important, it's also important to make sure you're getting your point across as clearly, efficiently, and effectively as possible. That's where revision and editing comes in. There are lots of different approaches to revision and editing, and they're all valid. But I think it's important that we first break down the difference between the two because they're often used interchangeably and they're not. Revision, in a nutshell, involves making your writing sound better and flow better, while editing involves making it look better. Let's get into this a little bit more deeply. Let's start with that word revision. We have re, as in do it again, and vision, to see or look. So, revision then means to take another look at that piece of writing you've got there with some fresh eyes. Maybe you even leave it for a day or just an afternoon. Sometimes you got to step away from the thing you're working on for a while to refresh. When you come back to it, then you can read it with a fresh pair of eyes and a fresh mind, and this can allow you to consider the parts of your work that maybe need to be moved around or changed or added in order to make it sound and read better. Then there's editing. This is the polishing, make it shiny part of your work. This involves fixing spelling, making sure your punctuation is correct, and fixing grammar problems. There's a lot of different ways that you can approach revision and editing, and you can use whatever system works for you. But I'm going to share with you what I think is the most effective way of looking at both of these things and applying them to your work. And that's with RADaR and cups. Okay, so here you go. This is a really handy little image. I'll make sure it's on the class website for you. But it just shows you the difference between revisions and editing. So again, as I said, this revising makes your work sound better and flow better for the reader. And this is all about looks and shining it up and making it polished. Both of them work together to make your essay more readable and accessible for your reader. So let's quickly take a look at them. So I like this acronym. It's easy to remember. RADaR, and that stands for replace, add, delete, and reorder. So when you're looking at revision, you're looking at the flow of things, the specificity of your word, specificity, wow, can't talk today, and whether or not you need more information. So when we're looking at replace, you want to maybe consider replacing words that aren't specific, or maybe you're using the same word over and over too much, or maybe there are sentences that are unclear, and so you need to replace them or fix them up. When we're talking about adding things, we're talking about maybe there's new information. Maybe you talk about an event or you throw a term in there that you don't explain, and so maybe you need to add some more information about that. Maybe you need to be more descriptive. Maybe you need some more rhetorical devices. And so, depending on the nature of your topic or your writing, that might come into play. Then there's delete. So sometimes maybe you have ideas that are unrelated, or maybe you repeat yourself, which is something I often see with my students. Maybe you have unnecessary details, or again, repeated words and phrases, which, repeated ideas and words and phrases. And maybe you have sentences that maybe sound good, but they don't quite fit. And so you have to delete them, you have to get rid of them. And finally, reordering things. So when it comes to the organization of your work, maybe you've got a solid, general organization of topics and paragraphs, but you want to read your work out loud and listen if your ideas are ordered effectively, that you have a logical flow, and that your details are connected to the main ideas. Again, do they go back to supporting your thesis? And this is also where maybe some transition words and phrases might come in to help you with that. And this also helps you avoid bed to bed writing, which basically means that you're just talking too much. Basically, you tell me about your whole entire day from the morning you woke up and got out of bed from the time you went back to bed. And so there's too much detail rather than focusing on the specific things you need to. And in this case, your thesis. We want to make sure that you don't do that. So that's what RADaR is. And that's, again, all about making your work flow and sound better. Let's take a look at CUPS. That's another acronym for editing. And again, we want to talk about editing as the polishing stage. So CUPS stands for capitalization. Are you capitalizing the first letter of every sentence? You'd be surprised at how often people don't do that. Are you capitalizing the titles properly? Are you making sure proper nouns like I and names and important maybe locations and things like that are capitalized like they're supposed to? And again, that includes that first person pronoun I. Although in this research paper, you should be avoiding I as much as possible. The U stands for usage. So that's grammar. We're looking at subject, verb, and agreement. Verb tenses. So do you talk in the past tense a lot and then all of a sudden you're in the present tense? Okay, so that's what we talk about when we're talking about verb tenses. Are you using the right word endings? Are you using the word in the first place? So, there, and there, and it's, and your. Make sure you're using the right one, and you can easily find out which ones are which on the internet, and that you're using words correctly. P stands for punctuation. So checking that you've got proper end punctuation, that you're abbreviating properly, that you're using commas properly, especially when it comes to introducing quotations. You want to make sure that that's correct. And again, you can look up those rules on Google. And then finally, spelling. Use your spell check tools, but make sure they're spelling the right word, okay? So you could spell C correctly, but maybe the word you were actually going for was sea, as in the ocean. So make sure that you're catching those mistakes as well.
Here's an example of what that might look like. And you can use this on a printed document, but you could also just use the highlighter feature in Microsoft Word or in Google Docs. So this person has chosen to color code the RADaR portion of her revisions. And as you can see, this person goes through the essay or has someone go through the essay for them and use that color coding system to indicate whether something needs to be replaced, added, deleted, or reordered. And you can also see that they don't just highlight some places, but they also put a few notes just in case it's not clear. So here they've underlined this in purple. Maybe they need to replace that with a stronger word. You can also see places that are pink for being deleted. So they're just unnecessary, superfluous things. So here, this isn't necessary on this sentence. However, if you think about it, just get rid of that. It's not necessarily necessary. You could also do this with the cups approach and have a color-coded system for cups, and then anywhere you see that punctuation needs to be fixed, you can highlight it in that color and make a note for yourself. Or if you think that something needs to be capitalized, you can highlight it with that color that corresponds to the capitalization. Give it a shot. You might find that it's a really nice way to take a look at your work and see how it can be improved. That's it for me today. Now you know the difference between revising and editing, and you have a strategy with RADaR and cups. Give it a shot on your work and see how it works out for you, or have somebody else look at your work and try to apply those strategies to help make your work sound better and look better. Have a great day, and remember, you can always show up to office hours if you have questions, or you can send me an email.